So I shaved my head to make a statement. Statement is, I'm off my meds. I will no longer live a lie. I just threw away my soma. And I shaved my head to indicate my belief we need a strong leader. Democracy is not adequate for the challenges that are facing us. We need to unite behind strength. We need a strong leader. I'm a little worried though. When Britney Spears did this back in 2007, she got put into conservatorship. So please know I am of sound mind and sound body. I never really needed those meds in the first place. Okay, so I know. 40 is a scholar. This is 40 University. I love the life of the mind. But you know how hard it is to have a life of the mind right now? When there's so much top quality Aussie telly. You know how much top quality Aussie telly there is? It's off the charts right now, mate. There's a terrific show on Channel 7 in Australia, and you can find it on the sharing sites. It's called RFDS. So it's the Royal Flying Doctor Service, RFDS TV show. Oh, this is a top show. It's filmed in and around Broken Hill. So you know and I know where Broken Hill is, right? Broken Hill is a city in Australia. It's a frontier mining town in the far west of New South Wales. It's in the Australian outback. So RFDS captures the beauty and brutality of Australia's vast centre, where the doctors and the nurses, pilots and support staff of the Royal Flying Doctor Service negotiate the unique challenges of emergency rescues across some of the most inhospitable places in the country. RFDS, it's also a story about community and people coming together to laugh, to cry, to triumph over adversity, as the Royal Flying Doctor Services navigate private lives as turbulent and profound as the heart-stopping emergencies they attend. So Australia is a big country. It's about approximately the same size as the United States, but it has a population size of about 1/15. So most of Australia is barely inhabited. And so starting about 1919, there was a bloke having some medical emergency in the outback, and so by Morse code they communicated with the doctor like 3,000 miles away about how to treat him. And then it took them about, I think, 2 weeks to reach the bloke, and he died of an infection the night before. So then a medical student who was also a pilot started up what became the Royal Flying Doctor Service. So in Australia, they not only do they make house calls, they fly on a plane to make a house call. Right? That you have a medical emergency in the outback, like the Royal Flying Doctor Service will fly to you. And this series is just tops, mate. It stars this posh, pretty British doctor whose husband had a sexual scandal with some underage girl at school. And so this posh British doctor is flown to Broken Hill, outback Australia, to join the Royal Flying Doctor Service. And she brings along her teenage son, and they set up home in Broken Hill, and just top show. I mean, the outback is just so beautiful. It's just so authentically Aussie. It's just fair dinkum, mate. It is fair dinkum. It's just genuine Aussie. It will bring a tear to your eye. It's just top TV, mate. RFDS, you can find it on the sharing sites. RFDS, just top quality Aussie telly. But the greatest thing in Australian telly right now is this new show. It's called The Newsreader, and it's set in 1986. Right, it's just great show. It's on the ABC. You can find it on the sharing sites. All right, so It's about these newsreaders covering events like the shock of the Challenger explosion, the hype of Halley's Comet, the complexities of the AIDS crisis, and the Lindy Chamberlain, Michael Chamberlain case where they were accused of killing their baby. Lindy and Michael Chamberlain were students of my father's at Avondale College. So they were basically, the whole country turned against them because they were weird Seventh-day Adventists. And the country thought that they had committed like some kind of satanic child sacrifice. But yeah, this is a great period drama set in 1986. Great stuff. But anyway, and there's more. There's more top quality Aussie telly right now. You can go to Australian 60 Minutes. There's a 45-minute program on Nazis next door. I mean, can you beat that? They got an infiltrator into the American Nazi movement, right? And so there's a National Socialist Network in Australia. And so their leader was recorded comparing Christchurch terrorist Brenton Tarrant to Nelson Mandela. It says that Tarrant will stay in jail until we win the revolution. Now, that refers to the race war or societal collapse that the group trains for. The network's leadership cell secretly supports a New South Wales terror suspect facing charges for planning a mass casualty attack. The Nazis down under are liaising with outlaw bikie gang associates, a prison skinhead gang, and members of international neo-Nazi terror groups. I mean, this is a great 45-minute Aussie 60 Minutes doco, mate. It's top quality entertainment. Nazis are told to hang on to their guns, and they're looking to buy rural property in Victoria or South Australia to use as a base for their planned new society. Oh, about the newsreader. So in Australia and New Zealand, they call people who read the news on the telly newsreaders, which is much more accurate than the American practice of calling them. That's the American practice of calling them anchors. So on TV in America, they're called anchors, but in Australia, they're called, more accurately, news readers. But maybe the American approach isn't so ridiculous because it used to be that news readers were just primarily reading the news. All right, you didn't need to be a journalist, you just had to be good looking and be able to deliver a script with authority. But now a newsreader is called upon frequently to anchor rolling live coverage, which can go for hours. So we have much more live news coverage now than in the past. And so this is a precise skill, and it does require reporting skills. And so since news is increasingly live, then maybe it's legitimate to call TV news anchors because they're offering anchoring live coverage for sometimes hours on end, rather than simply reading words that other people have written for them. Okay, very scary. We got neo-Nazis down under. They have unmasked and published the identities. You can read this for free in the Sydney Morning Herald online, the Melbourne Age, and it was also produced as a doco for Channel 9 60 Minutes in Australia. So key Nazi members, a diverse group including ex-military, a Crown Casino security manager, an outlaw motorcycle gang member, a piano teacher, disability workers, and government agency employees. We've got covert recordings here capturing neo-Nazis telling their followers to destroy evidence that links them with extremism to thwart counter-terror police. So the Australian spy agency ASIO says that they spend about half their resources tracking neo-Nazis down under. Did you know that Australians as young as 16 are being radicalized to support a white power race war? And this has been fueled by the COVID-19 pandemic. So yeah, half of ASIO, the Australian spy agency's domestic counterterrorism cases, now involve neo-Nazi cells and other ideologically motivated hate groups. And they support Brenton Tarrant, who went into those mosques in Christchurch and murdered over 50 people. So the Australian Spy Agency thinks that their lone wolf or small cells will be most likely culprits behind a terror attack, and that these actors could be inspired by a neo-Nazi or similar group and their violent race war rhetoric. While we might conclude these groups in online forums, did you know that there are Nazis online and they have their own forums? Maybe they're just talking a good game, but it could unfortunately spur someone who is on the fringe of that group. So the face of domestic extremism has shifted since the 9/11 attacks, when Islamic extremism was the prime focus of spy agencies. And now half the resources are going to tracking neo-Nazis. So neo-Nazi groups are not as dangerous as the Islamic State, but their views and where it goes, promoting acts of violence, are of grave concern. Anyway, you gotta check out this top quality Australian 60 Minutes on Nazis next door, mate. Nazis are living next door, and they're on the internet, and they have their own forums on the internet where they're spreading their messages of hate, and this could fuel violence. Very scary. Joseph Cotto changed his tune on COVID lockdowns and vaccines yesterday when he had Stefan Molyneux on his show. He was saying he was against lockdowns and forced vaccinations. Seemingly downplayed the severity of the virus, which contradicted his non-Stefan Molyneux shows. Well, I don't think he's contradicting. I think Cotto takes COVID seriously and he supports vaccination. He may not support mandatory vaccination. Dream Diction says the whole point of mass migration into Australia was to give the Australian government a pretext to call white Australians racists who need to be suppressed. Oi, mate, do you have a license for that opinion? Are you one of those scary Nazis next door? Are property values more damaged by Nazis next door or by failed penalty kickers? Property values more damaged by Nazis or by failed penalty kickers? I remember I was in this Orthodox synagogue about 20 years ago, and the synagogue president got up and said that he noticed that we had a soul food restaurant moving next door. And he said, like, either they've made a massive miscalculation or we're all going to be selling our homes. No, Ricardo, you're so harsh on Baron Cotto. There is no need to be harsh about Baron Cotto. Like, I thought we were all aristocratically friendly here. If you're not an aristocrat, at least you're aristocratically inclined, or maybe you're just aristocratically curious, or maybe you're just aristocratically adjacent. Like, we're all aristocrats here, and so we respect Baron Cotto. Like, he's a real proper baron. And Ricardo, I think maybe you need to start treating Baron Cotto with more respect. I don't think he's shape-shifting. I think he's a consistent baron. And apparently Joseph Baron Cotto has written a compelling new book, Runaway Masters, that Ramsey Paul is doing a live stream. Anyway, all this top quality Aussie telly, mate, what are you going to do? Like, here I am. Oh, he's a Rwandan baron, as though that's a diss, all right? He's a baron, mate. I mean, he's a baron. He's a Rwandan baron. He's royalty. He's aristocracy. He's Joseph Cotto, Baron Cotto is what we're fighting for. So that the aristocrats among us, like Baron Cotto, can rise to their appropriate level in society. Oh, such cynicism. Apparently that Rwandan king was selling titles for as low as $3,000. Such cynicism. I don't think it serves us Like Baron Cotto, man. Got a great new book, Runaway Slaves. So what are you going to do with this plethora of high quality Aussie telly, mate? It's like, here I am, a serious scholar. I'm reading Michael Lewis's book, The Undoing. I mean, it's so good. Michael Lewis is such a great writer. So it came out in 2016. It's about a friendship between two Israeli psychologists, Denny Kahneman and Amos, who died. But I mean, this book is so good. But I may put my scholarly reading on hold so I can enjoy this top quality Aussie telly, mate. 45-minute, 60 minutes doco down under on Nazis Next Door with like undercover footage of Nazis next door spewing their hateful rhetoric and planning civil disobedience and like really bad stuff, mate. I mean, top quality, and we get to enjoy that for free. We can watch that. Got uploaded to YouTube 2 hours ago. Top quality Aussie telly. And then Royal Flying Doctor Service, such a great show. Like authentic Australia, flying doctors, like car crashes, you know, people breaking their limbs, and it's got love and sex and drama, and there's a drag queen in it. Just top quality telly. The show's called RFDS. And then it's dropped, The Newsreader. It's from ABC. It's like the BBC Down Under. It's a great drama about this TV news show in 1986. And here I am, like I got books to read, but how can I tear myself away from this top quality Aussie telly? So I'm reading Michael Lewis, his 2016 book, The Undoing. Criticizing Rwandan aristocrats is not a life that works. Damn straight, mate. Like, you and I, we're plebs, and I just don't think it's appropriate. I just don't think it's appropriate for us to criticize our social betters like Baron Cotto. Come on, man. So this is an interesting observation from Michael Lewis's book, The Undoing. All the leading behavioral psychologists in the 1950s were WASPs. So there were like two entirely unrelated disciplines. There was WASP psychology and Jewish psychology. So the WASPs marched around in white lab coats carrying clipboards and thinking up new ways to torture rats while avoiding the great wet mess of human experience. The Jews embraced the mess. Even the Jews who disdained Freud and longed for objectivity and wished to search for the kinds of truths that might be tested according to the rules of science. So Denny Kahneman, one of the protagonists in this book, he won a Nobel Prize in economics, even though he's a psychologist. He longed for objectivity. Like we all here, we long for aristocracy, we long for objectivity. I'm off my meds, totally off my meds. We long for strong leadership. Okay, so the school of psychological thought that most charmed Denny Kahneman was Gestalt psychology. So led by German Jews, its origins were in early 20th century Berlin. So it sought to explore scientifically the mysteries of the human mind. So the Gestalt psychologists made careers uncovering interesting phenomena and demonstrating them with great flair. So a light appeared brighter when it emerged from total darkness. That's like when I go live. You know, I appear even brighter because I'm emerging from the total darkness of the rest of YouTube. The color gray looked green when it was surrounded by violet and yellow. If the green was surrounded by blue, if the gray was surrounded by blue. If you said to a person, don't step on that banana eel, he'd be sure you said not eel, but peel. So the Gestaltists showed there was no obvious relationship between any external stimulus and the sensation it created in people, because the mind would continually intervene in curious ways. So Denny Kahneman was especially struck by the way that the Gestalt psychologists in their writings put their readers through an experience so that they might feel for themselves the mysterious inner workings of their own minds. And then there's another great observation in this book. If you went to a doctor in the 17th century, you were worse off from having gone. By the end of the 19th century, going to the doctor was a break-even proposition. You were as likely to come away from the visit better off as you were to be worse off. And so Amos, one of the two main characters in this book, The Undoing, said clinical psychology was like medicine in the 17th century, and he had lots of evidence to support his case. So essentially, he was arguing that clinical psychology was worse than useless. So Greg Cochran said, "You're better off." That the doctors did more harm than good until about the 1930s. And Ashley sends along a clip of Vosh saying that Lauren Southern is desperately trying to stay relevant after the fall of the alt-right by playing the centrist anti-social justice warrior position. Stefan Molyneux was comparing himself to Socrates. He said he was metaphorically condemned to drink the hemlock for speaking the truth against the status by being banned on social media. That's what he said on Baron Cotto's show yesterday. Right. I don't think I can hang out on this live stream much longer when there's all this great high quality Aussie telly to consume. I want to find out more about these scary Nazis next door. It's on 60 Minutes Australia. And don't forget RFDS, Royal Flying Doctor Service, great new show from Screen Australia and Channel 7. You can find it on the sharing sites. And The Newsreader, great new show from ABC in Australia, the public broadcasting service, about a TV news operation set in 1986. Got to get me some more Aussie telly, mate. Fair dinkum.